2291, the salvage vessel Redemption detected a signal in Sector 447, a region of space so remote that no star's light had reached it in millennia. Captain Maria Santos had been hunting salvage for 15 years, pulling valuable tech from abandoned stations and derelict ships across the outer territories. But she'd never seen anything like this. The signal was old, ancient, broadcasting on frequencies humanity hadn't used in over 2 centuries. And when her sensors finally locked onto the source, Maria's blood ran cold. It was a ship, massive, drifting dead in the absolute darkness. And according to her database, it had a name, the Black Ship, the ESS Erebus, launched in 2087 as part of humanity's first deep space colonization program. Lost with all hands, 347 souls, in the great silence of 2089. For 200 years, it had been a ghost story, a cautionary tale told to rookie pilots about the dangers of pushing too far, too fast into the unknown. But it wasn't a ghost, it was real, and it was right in front of her. Maria gathered her crew in the briefing room. 4 people she trusted with her life. Jackson, her engineer, a man who could fix anything with duct tape and prayer. Yuki, her pilot, whose reflexes had saved them more times than Maria could count. Dr. Chen, their medical officer and scientist, brilliant but cautious. And Riker, her security chief, an ex-military hard case who'd seen combat on the Martian front. The Erebus, Maria said, pulling up the ship's specs on the holographic display. Colony ship, Class A deep space vessel, should be carrying valuable rare earth processors, advanced navigation systems, maybe even intact cryopods. We're talking millions in salvage rights. Jackson whistled. 200 years old and still intact? That's impossible. The hull should have degraded. Micrometeorite impacts, radiation, thermal stress. I know, Maria cut him off, but sensors confirm it. The hull's intact, and there's more. She paused, watching her crew's faces. There's power, minimal, but it's there. Life support is running at 15%. The ship is still alive. Silence filled the room. Finally, Riker spoke, his voice flat. Nothing survives 200 years in deep space. Nothing. Dr. Chen leaned forward, her eyes sharp with scientific curiosity. Unless it was designed to, the Erebus was cutting edge for its time. Maybe their systems were more robust than we thought. Maria made her decision. We board in 2 hours. Full EVA gear, weapons authorized. We go in, assess the situation, grab what we can, and get out. Standard salvage protocol. But as her crew filed out to prepare, Maria stayed behind, staring at the image of the black ship rotating slowly on her display. Something felt wrong, terribly wrong. But in the salvage business, wrong usually meant profitable. The Erebus loomed before them like a tomb. 2 kilometers of twisted metal and composite plating, scarred by centuries of cosmic radiation and micro impacts. The ship had been beautiful once. Sleek lines, humanity's hope for the stars made manifest. Now it was a corpse, floating in the eternal night. Maria's magnetic boots clanked against the outer hull as her team made their way to the primary airlock. Structural integrity looks good, Jackson reported, running his scanner across the hull. Better than good, actually. This thing's built like a fortress. Life support? Maria asked. Active, Dr. Chen confirmed, her voice tinged with disbelief. Oxygen levels are at 18%. Temperature is holding at 4 degrees Celsius. The ship is maintaining minimal habitability parameters. They reached the airlock, ancient, covered in frost. But when Jackson interfaced with the control panel, it responded immediately. The door opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure, revealing darkness beyond. Maria switched on her helmet lamp, illuminating a corridor that hadn't seen light in 2 centuries. We're in, she said. Stay close, stay alert, and if anything feels wrong, we abort immediately. They stepped inside. The airlock sealed behind them with a sound like a coffin closing. And deep in the ship, something that had been waiting for a very long time began to wake. The interior of the Erebus was a nightmare of decay and preservation. Emergency lights flickered sporadically, casting blood-red shadows across corridors lined with frost. Personal belongings lay scattered everywhere. floating in the zero gravity of certain sections, frozen to the floor in others. Photos, clothes, children's toys. The detritus of 347 lives interrupted mid-moment. "This is wrong," Yuki whispered over the comms. "Where are the bodies?" It was a good question. In Maria's experience, derelict ships always had bodies, but the Erebus was empty, not clean, abandoned, like the crew had simply stood up and walked away. "Cryo Bay," Maria decided. "If they're anywhere, they're there. That's where the valuable equipment will be anyway." They moved deeper into the ship, following the emergency lighting. The Erebus was enormous, its corridors stretching into darkness, like the halls of some vast cathedral. And everywhere there were signs of life interrupted. A meal half-eaten in the galley, the food now petrified by age and vacuum. A chess game set up in the rec room, pieces floating mid-play. A child's drawing on a wall, a family, a ship, and stars. Lots of stars. But there were other things too. Things that didn't make sense. Scratches on the walls, deep gouges in the metal, like something with immense strength had torn at the bulkheads. And symbols, strange geometric patterns etched into every surface, repeating obsessively. "What the hell happened here?" Jackson breathed. Before anyone could answer, the ship's intercom crackled to life. A voice, distorted by centuries and static, whispered through their helmet speakers. "Welcome home." They froze. The voice continued, speaking in fragments like a recording played on failing systems. "Welcome home. We've been waiting so long in the dark, so cold, but you came back. You finally came back." "That's impossible," Dr. Chen said, her voice shaking. "That's a recording. Has to be. Some automated system triggered by our presence." But Maria wasn't so sure. The voice sounded too aware, too immediate. "This is Captain Maria Santos of the salvage vessel Redemption," she said clearly. "We're responding to your distress signal. Is anyone alive aboard this ship?" Silence. Then laughter. Cold. Broken. Wrong. "Alive? Oh, Captain, that's such an interesting question. Are we alive? We don't remember anymore. It's been so long. So very long in the darkness between stars. We went so far, Captain. Further than anyone. We found the edge. The place where light ends, and we learned such wonderful things." "We're leaving," Maria ordered. "Now, back to the airlock. Move!" But when they turned around, the corridor had changed. The walls seemed longer. The path they'd taken was gone, replaced by branching passages that hadn't been there before. Impossible. Physics didn't work that way. But the Erebus didn't care about physics. "You can't leave," the voice whispered. "You came to salvage. So salvage. Take what you came for. Take us. We're so tired of being alone." They had no choice. Every path led the same direction, toward the cryo bay, deep in the heart of the ship. The doors opened automatically as they approached, revealing a massive chamber filled with hundreds of cryopods. Maria's helmet lamp swept across them. Most were dark, empty, but some were still active, still running, still occupied. "Oh God," Yuki gasped. Inside the active pods were bodies, preserved perfectly, but wrong. Their eyes were open, all of them, staring, and their mouths were moving, silently forming words in the frozen suspension. Dr. Chen approached one of the pods, her scanner active. "This is impossible. They're alive, conscious, but they've been in cryo for 200 years. The neural degradation alone should have..." She stopped. The scanner's readings made no sense. Their brain activity is off the charts. They're not sleeping. They're not unconscious. They're awake. All of them. Aware. Trapped in their own bodies for 2 centuries. "Let us out," the voice came again. But now Maria could see the truth. It wasn't coming from speakers. It was coming from the pods themselves. From the minds inside. Somehow broadcasting directly into their helmet comms. "We've been awake so long. Do you know what that's like? 200 years of absolute isolation, unable to move, unable to scream, only able to think, to feel, to slowly lose your mind in the infinite darkness." "The mission logs," Riker said suddenly. "Find the captain's log." We need to know what happened. Jackson located a terminal and jacked in. Data flooded his screen. Mission went fine at first. They reached the edge of mapped space. But then, they found something. An anomaly. A region where space itself was wrong. They went to investigate and... He stopped reading, his face going pale inside his helmet. What? Maria demanded. They never left, Jackson whispered. The Erebus never left that region. We're not in normal space, Captain. We're still there, still in the anomaly. That's why the ship's intact. That's why time doesn't work right. We're trapped in the same space-time loop that caught them 200 years ago. The ship began to change. Or perhaps it had always been this way, and only now could they see it. The walls bent at angles that couldn't exist. Corridors led up and down simultaneously. Through the viewports, they could see it. The anomaly. Not darkness, not space, but something else. Something that existed before light, before matter, before time itself. The place where reality ended. It drives you mad, the voice explained, almost sympathetically now. Consciousness wasn't meant to exist here. The human mind breaks down. Some of us broke faster than others. The crew that wasn't in cryo, they tore at the walls. They carved the symbols. They tried to make sense of the senseless, and when that failed, they walked into the void, one by one, until only us remained. Frozen, aware, eternal. Maria felt reality slipping. She could feel the anomaly pressing against her mind, whispering secrets that would shatter sanity. The airlocks, she gasped. We came in through the main airlock. We can leave the same way. Can you? The voice asked. Are you sure? Look at your ship, Captain. Look at your beautiful redemption. Through the viewport, Maria saw their ship. But it was wrong. It was old. Centuries old. Covered in the same frost and decay as the Erebus. As if it had been floating here for just as long. No, she breathed. That's not possible. We just arrived. Did you? The voice asked. How long has it been since you left port, Captain? Really think about it. Remember. Try to remember when you last saw the sun. Maria's mind reeled. The memories were there, but they felt distant, dreamlike. When had they left port? Yesterday, last week, years ago? Don't listen to it, Riker shouted. It's messing with our heads. The anomaly. It's some kind of quantum field affecting our perception. We can fight it. But Dr. Chen was crying inside her helmet. He's right. Look at our suits, the wear patterns, the degradation. These suits are old. We're old. We've been here before, many times. We always come back to salvage. We always board. We always discover the truth. And then we forget. And the cycle repeats. The Erebus broadcasts its signal, the voice explained. Ships come, they investigate, they get trapped. They become part of the loop, round and round, forever. It's not malicious, it's just the nature of this place. Time is a circle here. Effect precedes cause. The end is the beginning. Maria felt something break inside her. Not her sanity, but her acceptance of impossibility. No, she said firmly. I don't accept that. There's always a way out. Always. She grabbed Jackson. The engines. If we overload the Redemption's reactor, would the explosion be enough to create a quantum shockwave? Something to push us out of this region? Jackson's eyes widened. It would destroy both ships, and probably kill us in the process. But would it work? Maybe, theoretically, if the blast was big enough to create a temporary rift in the anomaly's field. Do it, Maria ordered. Set it for 15 minutes. That gives us time to get back to our ship and initiate the sequence. Captain, the voice said, sadness coloring its tone. You've tried this before, 37 times. It never works. They ran through the impossible corridors of the Erebus, their boots pounding against floors that sometimes existed and sometimes didn't. Behind them, they could hear the cryopods opening, the preserved crew, mad from centuries of awareness, shambling after them. Not hostile, just lonely, desperate for company in their eternal prison. Don't let them touch you, Riker shouted, firing his weapon at the approaching figures. But the bullets passed through them like they were ghosts, or like the crew itself were the ghosts, and these were the real beings. They reached their ship, or what remained of it. The Redemption looked ancient and new simultaneously, existing in multiple time states at once. Jackson worked frantically at the reactor controls while the others sealed the airlock. 10 minutes, he gasped. The reaction's starting. We need to be in cryopods when it goes off, or the shock wave will liquefy us. They strapped into their emergency pods, designed for exactly this kind of catastrophic scenario. Maria was the last inside. Through the viewport, she could see the Erebus, could see the faces of the preserved crew, pressed against their windows, watching, waiting. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Then she sealed her pod. The world went dark, cold, silent, and Maria had one final thought before the cryo-suspension took her. What if she was wrong? What if they were the ones in the pods, had been for 200 years? And this was all a dream of escape that they repeated endlessly, trying to convince themselves they'd gotten away. The reactor reached critical mass. The explosion was spectacular. A miniature star born and died in the same instant, releasing enough energy to tear a hole in space-time itself. The shock wave hit the anomaly like a hammer, and for one perfect moment, reality remembered what it was supposed to be. The loop shattered. Time moved forward. Cause and effect realigned. And the two ships, the Erebus and the Redemption, were flung outward, hurled back into normal space with the force of a cosmic rebirth. Or that's what Maria dreamed anyway, in her cryopod, as her consciousness slowly faded, as the Erebus drifted on through the eternal dark, as the cycle prepared to begin again. 3 months later, a salvage vessel detected a signal in Sector 447. Two ships, locked together, drifting in the darkness between stars. The ESS Erebus, lost for 200 years. And another ship, the Redemption, ancient, covered in frost. According to the database, the Redemption had gone missing 47 years ago, responding to a distress signal from a ship called the Erebus. The salvage crew made their approach. Their captain, a young woman named Santos, determined to make her fortune in the outer territories, gave the order to board. After all, 2 derelict ships meant double the salvage. And as they crossed the threshold into the Erebus, as the airlock sealed behind them, with a sound like a coffin closing, a voice whispered through the darkness, "Welcome home. We've been waiting." The black ship had found new passengers, and the cycle continued, as it always had, as it always would, forever, in the place where light ends and madness begins.